evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Man, what an amazing night we had Tuesday night. Democrats all over the state, winning elections, municipal elections. You know, we always say all politics are local. This was a clear indication that all politics are local because our municipal races, we won mayors and city councils and clerks and clerk treasurers in all corners of our state. I'm not even going to rant tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and bring my guests on so that we can dissect and break down this election cycle and the wins and losses and what we did right and what we could do better. So first up, my first guest, who serves as the communications director for our Indiana Democratic Party, Sam Barlog. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dana. Pleasure to be with you.
I love it. I love it. And my new nephew, He's I call him my little nephew, but he's not really that little. Y'all give it up for the Indiana Young Democrats Secretary, Jacob Barnes. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure, Dana. Thanks for having me.
I love it. Hey, guys, let's just dive right on in. The biggest race in the state, obviously with the biggest city, is our mayor, Mayor Hogsett, winning a third term as mayor of this fantastic city. He cleaned up. Sam, what did it mean and what kind of work did we have to put in to make sure that we reelected Mayor Joe Hogsett?
Well, you know, Indianapolis on Tuesday didn't just reelect Mayor Joe Hogsett, they reelected him overwhelmingly to a third term with a 60-40 margin. And this was despite a campaign where the Republican candidate raised at least $15 million in Jefferson Shreve. Didn't raise it. Actually, that's the wrong way to put it.
Yeah.
It was his own money.
He found it in his couch cushions.
Yes, exactly. And Jefferson, you know, $500 million there and spent $15 million of his own money trying to buy Indianapolis. And Indianapolis showed it cannot be bought. It will not be bought. And that it won't stand for someone trying to, you know, buy the mayor's office who wants to institute, wants to see a ban on abortion and wants to, loosen gun control laws because he's a member of the NRA. So Indianapolis didn't fall for it. Didn't fall for his lies. Didn't fall for it. They knew what his record was. They saw it. We put it out there, and that's why they rejected him and reelected Mayor Joe.
I know, and it was almost like he was one of those unsolicited real estate broker people that call you and say, oh, do you want to sell your property? There was no for sale sign out in Indianapolis, but Jacob, you worked intimately with the mayor's office and intimately with the campaign. Talk about what your strategy was as a campaign to get out and share the message about what Joe Hogsett was doing.
You know, it was a big night, like Sam said, right? Indianapolis elected Mayor Joe Hogsett to his third term for the Circle City. And it was largely because a lot of work was done. Lots of boots on the ground, lots of phone calls made, texts, and a lot of door knocking, right? But I mean, not just that, it's also Indianapolis chose a very different vision than what the Republican Party here in Indiana,
yes,
are trying to set out and achieve, right? They said no to the status quo. They said yes, we want to continue and to see Indianapolis grow into this vibrant, progressive, thriving city. And they saw that with Joe in the last two terms that he had, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has brought unprecedented investment into Indianapolis. And that's just not being seen in Indianapolis, right? That ripples out across all the Hoosier state. So, right, they saw his leadership. That Mayor Joe is one of the hardest working public servants in Indiana, and he is all over, right? I mean, that guy is at event. And it's that kind of leadership, it does inspire all of us who I work in his office and all of his volunteers and all of the people who are around him to also step up, to level up to that, right? Because that's what it takes to win elections. It takes knocking on doors. It takes those long nights at a campaign office. It It takes having a conversation with friends and strangers on the street to say, hey, this local election matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? One thing about Mayor Joe, he's not afraid to go anywhere. One thing, Jefferson Shreve, as a Republican in Indianapolis, did the cardinal sin. He did not take into consideration the multiculturalness of Indianapolis and carve out his campaign to speak to the Black community, the brown community, the LGBTQ plus community. He had a lot of videos. But if you notice, he never was he wasn't really in the commercials with the people. All he did was tokenize Black and brown people. Guys, how did Jefferson Shreve not know that he had to speak? And I know you can't get in the brains of Jefferson Shreve, but talk about the major flaw of his campaign and not speaking directly to the Black and brown and other marginalized communities in the city of Indianapolis. Sam?
Yeah, I think that Jefferson Shreve made a big mistake. He spent millions of dollars in his campaign and didn't address issues that were important to minority communities within Indianapolis, the most diverse city in the state of Indiana. And it was one of the reasons why his campaign was rejected. His record as a executive at Storage Express was that he couldn't name a single Black person in the 30 years that he owned the company that he promoted to the executive board. And it would have been, if he would have been elected mayor, Indianapolis knew that they would have had a city hall that didn't look anything like Indianapolis, and they made sure that didn't happen.
Absolutely. Jake?
Yeah, I think it goes to me. The guy said in a debate that he doesn't see color.
Ugh.
Well, for me, that really aligns with the GOP here in Indiana. They want a very straight, white, conservative way of life. Yeah. And we said no. Yeah. Absolutely not. That's not how diversity makes us stronger. Yeah. It makes us wiser. It makes for more vibrant communities. And I think that we really full out rejected all of that.
Absolutely. We want no parts of what's happening at the State House in Indianapolis. And I felt like, honestly, if he had won, which I'm going to be honest, I was never worried because I still felt like even if he shaved off a few points, Mayor Hogsett won with 70% of the votes last time. So if he shaved off a few points, we were still going to get 50 plus 1, right? But I was never worried. But it was almost like he would have been the locksmith. Indianapolis, our elected officials in Indianapolis have managed to keep the State House out of Indianapolis for so long with the supermajority on the city council when they wanted to take over our law enforcement agency. Can you believe that? I mean, the state already has a law enforcement agency. It's called the state police, but they wanted to regulate IMPD. They were wanting to introduce legislation to every time they target a consolidated city, it's about taking control of Indianapolis. And I felt like he would have been the locksmith that would have just let these guys come in to Indianapolis and run roughshod over the great things our democratically led city has done. We are the convention capital of the nation, right? We are, other than Vegas. But that's another story. We have conventions here all the time. We hosted the Super Bowl. Trust me, Mayor Hogsett was talking about we have the NBA All-Star game coming up in February. And I guess some artist named, what's her name? Taylor Swift. She's coming. But all of the effort to make Indianapolis a world-class city would have gone down the drain. And what I really feared, the only thing that I ever feared was that they would drain us, they would bleed us, because we are the economic hub of the entire state. All these rural areas, I love that they're rural, but honestly, they're losing population. They're losing population and they're losing tax dollars. We're gaining population. Indianapolis is gaining population, and we are like a welfare. We provide funding to some of these other counties that can't actually sustain their municipalities. I was so afraid that they were going to bleed us dry, take all of the resources out, and then say, look, Indianapolis is terrible. But I'm so glad that he won. But just as important about Mayor Hogsett winning, Oh, wow. Let's talk about Lawrence, Indiana. Can we talk about the history maker? Can we talk about Deb Whitfield being the first Black woman elected to run that city of Lawrence, and how she and Mayor Hogsett worked hand in hand, and they campaigned with each other? Talk about the significance, y'all. Sam, I'm going to start with you. Talk about the significance of having Deb Whitfield as the first Black mayor in Lawrence, Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got the Country Kitchen on Tuesday, which is where Indianapolis Democrats held their victory party, I actually walked in right as Deb was coming up on the stage to give her victory speech. And man, she's a rock star.
Yeah.
She really connected with the community, and she was part of a history-making election that wasn't even limited to herself. Across the country, we saw new minority mayors win, people of color truly representing their communities. And in Indiana, not just in Lawrence, but we saw it in Evansville, electing Stephanie Terry. Stephanie Terry flipped the largest city hall that Republicans controlled in the entire state, became the first Black mayor in Evansville's history, 100 years after the KKK came out of Evansville to take over the state, try to take over the state 100 years ago.
I love it.
So really, a turn on that. And then up in Michigan City, Angie Nelson Deitch flipped the city council up there in a very diverse city. And so we're making history. It isn't just Deb, and it's not just limited to her, but she's part of a wave of history going through the state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jacob, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, again, it feels like we are at that, we're at that history point, right? Like it's like this tide, right? And I really am excited, and it invigorates me, and I know it's invigorating young people to see that when people go out to vote, that these are the outcomes that happen. And so I'm really excited to continue that momentum into next year and in Indiana's future.
I love it. And you know what? It's not just, yes, 3 Black women mayors in Indiana. Unprecedented. We only had one for a long time. Just one out of Gary. Just one. Karen Freeman Wilson. That was all we had. And now we have 3. It's not just the Black women. I mean, yes, it's fantastic that we have so many amazing Black women who are elected, but we have more Black and other minority people leading cities now. Rob Roberson up in Elkhart was able to win his reelection. Anthony Copeland, he won election. And then, of course, over in Vigo County in Terre Haute, one of the youngest elected mayors in the state of in the Indiana history, Mr. Sackbon, Brandon Sackbon. Jacob, I'm gonna start with you. You guys had a chance to interview Brandon for your show Midwest Moments. Talk about what it means for young folks to see someone like Brandon win his election in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yeah, I think electing Brandon Sackbon to the mayor of Terre Haute really invigorates young people to say that is someone who will lead with me in mind. Yeah. Right. It also, I think, will invigorate young people to say, hey, maybe I will throw my hat in the race. I really got to know Brandon pretty well, and he is an A+ guy. He's very intelligent. He's extremely hardworking.
He's a Ranger,
ex-Army Ranger. He was a substitute teacher.
Wow.
While he was running his campaign, right? And he has a lot going for him, and Terre Haute now has a lot going for it. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time for young people, right? I mean, as IYD, we endorsed 17 candidates. 9 of them won their races, right? That's not the amount that we wanted, but he was a big one for us. And we went down there, we spent some time with him, and, he has done an amazing job of, invigorating Democrats in Vigo County, and as well as the young Democrats. Yeah. So, it's trailblazing, and it's exciting to watch.
And I tell you what, the Terre Haute, we've been talking about mayors, but there are also council seats on the race, and we're going to get back to Marion County, but I want to stay right there in Terre Haute. They swept everything in Terre Haute. Let's talk about how, Democrats, they showed up. So it just proves someone at the top of the ticket can reign supreme down ballot. I mean, they flipped everything. They took control of Terre Haute. Talk about the significance of having a Democratic supermajority running everything in Terre Haute and in other cities across the state.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the impact when you have a candidate that is as inspirational as Brandon is, that those effects are going to be seen down the ballot. Brandon made incredible history, ran an inspirational campaign. His victory is going viral around the country. He was called by the vice president yesterday to wish him congratulations. They're both of Indian Jamaican descent. Mm-hmm. And on the council, Terre Haute elected its first Black female to the city council on Tuesday night, as well as sweeping all the contested races there. So really a historic night, led by an historic candidate.
I love it. So let's go back to Marion County. We lost one seat of our supermajority. We were 22-5, and now we're 19-6. But with the redistricting, there were actually 3 city county council seats that were up for grabs, and we got 2 of them. You want to talk about Jared Evans pulling it out, and Nick Roberts, another young person, pulling it out. Talk about the significance of holding on to that supermajority in Indianapolis, considering, the fight that we always have with the supermajority at the State House. Jacob, what does it mean to hold on to that supermajority here in Indianapolis?
Yeah, it means that we're going to be able to continue the work that we're doing. It means that we get to continue this progressive momentum, moving Indianapolis forward into the 21st century, right? Being a tech hub, that was a federal designation by, President Biden and Vice President Harris. It means that we get to but we get to continue to push forward into the vision of where we know Indianapolis can go. And I think that's very exciting. And, there's going to always be those 5-6 no votes on really common sense things, but it means that we're going to be able to continue to do the work that we've already committed ourselves to doing.
And what does that say for you, Sam, when you see that Indianapolis has been able to hold on to its supermajority?
Yeah, that it proves that not just Indianapolis reelecting to the mayor's office, but reelecting strong Democratic leaders to the city council shows that Indianapolis wants the line of defense from the bad policy coming out of the State House. Mm-hmm. And that first line of defense is the mayor's office, and it's the city council. Yeah. And they're going to hold strong for the people of Indianapolis. Yeah, because while Mayor Hogsett was out cutting ribbons on housing, which everybody I interviewed this year who was running for municipal races mentioned that housing, the lack of affordable housing was a big deal. While Mayor Hogsett was out cutting ribbons on housing all over the city of Indianapolis, his opponents were talking about dog shelters and raking leaves. Mm-hmm. That's not going to get you a win. Guys, so when as the comms director of the state party, talk about how you were able to get messaging out, because there's a lot of different races and a lot of different areas of the state have different needs. How are you able to communicate with folks about how to get the messaging out? How did the state party work with these local candidates to get the messaging out? Is I guess what I'm asking. Yeah, absolutely. Well, all of these different races are each individual, and they're all different in their own different ways. So we wanted all the candidates to keep their races local because they're not running in national elections. You can use national issues to your advantage sometimes, especially with your base, with volunteers, things like that. But at the doors and on social media and things like that, we wanted our candidates in local areas to keep focused on local issues, and it paid off because these town elections. The city and town elections aren't about the big divisive national issues. They're about paving potholes and turning on streetlights. Yeah. Jake?
Yeah, I think it goes down to the vision of what people are wanting to see in their communities. And I think that you can see that from every big win that Dems had.
Yeah. And we didn't win them all, right? Let's take a look at Hamilton County real quick. That was a big race that it was all over local media because, I mean, my goodness, Hamilton County is growing. And Miles Nelson ran an excellent race, but unfortunately he came up short. In fact, we kind of came up short all over Hamilton County. And Dana Colbert, the Hamilton County chair, even with all these losses, she had a great slate. Even though the candidates came up short, I saw people who live in Hamilton County who are Democrats say, I at least had a slate to run for. What can we learn from the losses in Hamilton County, Sam?
Yeah. I think it's important to remember that we just had a candidate for mayor take 42% in Carmel, something that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And that the reality on the ground is, even though we fell short in many of these races, we still have thousands more votes ever before than in municipal races in Hamilton County and in both Carmel Fishers and also in Westfield. And on top of that, these campaigns have helped the party there build an apparatus of volunteers, an apparatus of donors, an apparatus of activists who are ready to keep the momentum going into next year. The electorate next year is going to look a lot different than the electorate this year, just because of the nature of municipal elections. And so despite, what might be seen as a setback in some ways, it doesn't change our goals in Hamilton County next year to flip some state house seats there and to try to make some inroads in the presidential year.
Well, and you know what? The Young Dems had a strong presence in Hamilton County. What was the motivating factor, Jacob, that got those young Democrats engaged up in Hamilton County?
I think it's the urge to say no to the status quo, to see themselves in the elected office as well. So I think there's a few reasons, but I think in big we don't like what is going on at the State House. We don't anymore, and in some of our city halls. So I think that really is a pull for a lot of the Hamilton County folks up there.
Yeah, let's shoot up to our second largest city up in Fort Wayne. Mayor Tom Henry won an unprecedented fourth term. Is it fourth or is fifth? I've lost count at this point. He's been in office for so long. But we took some hits. We didn't get as many city council seats. So Fort Wayne is kind of like a mix between what the good stuff that happened in Indianapolis and Evansville and Elkhart and Terre Haute, and not what happened in Hamilton County where we kind of almost got shut out. It was a mixed bag. Fort Wayne is one of those cities where we have got to stay engaged. It is our second largest city. And you know that the State House, that the way they targeted for redistricting, how important Fort Wayne is. Let's talk about what happened in Fort Wayne and how we maybe can probably do. We know Sharon Tucker won her reelection. We know Councilwoman Michelle Chambers won. But we didn't pick up the clerk's seat, and we didn't get any of those at-large seat. Talk about what we need to probably do a little bit differently in Fort Wayne, Sam.
Yeah, I think first off, I want to congratulate Mayor Henry on his victory last night, or victory Tuesday night. It's a very hard fought race. Actually, the dynamics of that race were very interesting because both the people knew each other. Actually, they had ran against each other for city council in Fort Wayne 20 years ago.
Wow.
So kind of, and actually Didier beat Tom 20 years ago for council, so Tom kind of got him back on Tuesday in a much bigger way.
Turnabout fair play, baby.
Yeah. So I think in Fort Wayne, we just need to keep engaging folks up there, and we need to have better turnout. We need to meet people where they are, and just build more of a grassroots effort up there. I think next year you're going to see a lot of that because we're going to reelect both of our state representatives in Fort Wayne, Kyle Miller and Phil Giaquinta, our leader. I think that's going to give us success down ballot next year there.
Absolutely. And I was up for a couple of IYD events in Fort Wayne. There's, another community with a strong, engaged young Democrat organization up there. Talk about, how we can empower them more. I want to make sure that we give them the tools, Jacob, to help the young Dems. I don't want them to be discouraged. So, what can we do to make sure that we empower the young folks up in Fort Wayne to stay with it?
Yeah, I think for me, it just comes down to relationships, right? And communication with those folks who are on the ground up there doing it. I think sometimes the work is hard. The work is tough. And so I think just making sure that they feel supported, and that's, as the state org, we are really working to make sure that we have those relationships built and those channels of communication open, just for them to feel like they can call us up or send us an email and say, hey, can you guys come and do, ask for help when they need. So I think that's a big part of our strategy. And I think that that's going to help, see some roads being built on that road to victory.
I love it. Well, we were able to accomplish a lot of good things in Indiana, and I'm really excited about the direction that we're going to go in, and I'm looking forward to diving more into it. But first up, I got to go ahead and give a shout out to my sponsor, Bohm's Unique Boutique, who has been my sponsor for the entire season. So let me give a shout out to Miss Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. They're seeing how Republicans govern, right? We don't have to bring national politics in or bring in input from everywhere, but they're seeing how the Republicans are not able to govern, and it may not it may not have anything to do with all the local politics, but folks are saying, hey, I'm seeing your guy is not able to do a thing. Talk about, Sam, when you guys are having these conversations about, yes, you want to keep everything local, but you also want to make sure that folks understand how to utilize what is happening in the national media.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want to engage your volunteers and engage your base on some of those things to help get out the vote. And especially in places where, we do better in even years, like Indianapolis, like that was really important for Mayor Joe to engage with the diverse population of Indianapolis to get as many people out to vote as possible. But, people need to, I think one of the reasons we did so well around the state was that people saw what's going on at the State House as well, and they don't want the leadership that they see at the State House, or the lack of it. The lack of leadership. They don't want to see that at their city halls as well.
Yep. You have any thoughts on that, especially from the young people's perspective? I mean, gosh, you see these clowns all over the country doing nefarious things. How are you young folks viewing that?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what I said earlier. It's the status quo, right? They've been doing that for years. And to what? Yeah. Indiana is we come in last on so many things, right? And so it's enough is enough, right? Actually go in there and govern. They're more focused on banning books from libraries than actually passing legislation that would help the health of Hoosiers, right? Yeah. Or they're too worried about censoring teachers in classrooms and actually increasing their wages, right? We have an incredible teacher shortage here. And so it's all about priorities. And the priorities are not they're not matching up with what the working people want. Working people policy. Absolutely. And I think that's why people bought into this election this cycle, because the policy, the visions that our candidates had aligned with the working people of Indiana.
Absolutely.
And get out of the pockets of your ultra rich friends. Like,
and I tell you what, with Ohio now passing their referendum to legalize cannabis use, that's Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, and Kentucky. All of our border states now have either decriminalized or legalized recreational use of cannabis. Indiana is sitting in the middle of all these different states, losing revenue, We're like I mean, it's just crazy when we think about, saying we're going to turn our tables and look at 2024. They just had a commission or a study this summer on at the State House on cannabis use and legalizing recreational use, and they came up with nothing. Indiana right now we're not moving forward. We're not even going backward. We're not doing anything. And we're just allowing a lot of these other states, right, to come in, because if people who want to participate and partake in the herb and the flower, they're going to go now everywhere is 2 hours away. You can go and get exactly what you want legally. And the 5-0 can't watch every interstate in. They can't check every car in. Indiana is missing out. Guys, how important is it that we get some legislation on the books and start to legalize and decriminalize and legalize cannabis use here in Indiana?
I just think we are not even just cannabis, right? In so many areas of policy, I think Hoosiers are starting to look around and say, what? Like, we really are falling behind, right? And look at what Michigan did, right? They were one of the first states in the Midwest. Governor Whitmer said, we're going to pass marijuana, and I'm going to use every amount of tax dollar that we get from marijuana sale for our roads. And what did she do? She took the roads down 7 feet deep and said, you're never going to have to build this street again. And that was not, she didn't raise taxes a cent. So, right, we also have to look at the economic impact of it. The economic impact of just inactiveness, right? Or inaction, right? Of doing nothing. And I think for young people, it's really waking us up and saying, okay, we actually need to care, we need to engage, and we need to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just piggyback off that, and I'll say that, I've been listening around the state, and one of the things that we're going to be messaging on over the course of the next year that's really, really important is the fact that all of our neighbors get to decide on issues like these directly. Mm-hmm. Got to go to the ballot box and decide on these issues directly. We want to hear from the people directly. Republicans don't.
No, not at all.
Republicans don't because their super majority is instituting minority policy on people. Minority supported policy.
Absolutely.
And this is another example of it, what's going on with cannabis and with women's health freedom, which were on the same ballot in Ohio on Tuesday and passed by very similar margins. So people in Indiana want to have that choice. We don't have the ability to do that right now. And the best way we can do that is by breaking the supermajority and electing more Democratic state legislators, protect women's health freedom, and to protect and to end the complete prohibition on cannabis in this state.
Absolutely. And go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna yes to that. Sam. Thank you for bringing that up, because that is so important, right? We can talk about these mayoral races, right, and these council races, but the importance of breaking their trifecta, their stranglehold on our state is going to keep us in the 1800s. It's going to let them just continue to do what the status quo of not passing progressive policy, not actually passing working people policy. They want to keep it how it is. They want to keep the door shut. And exactly what Sam said, we have to break their trifecta. That means electing more House of Representatives, electing more state senators. We have to do that in every district in Indiana.
That's exactly right. I mean, and Rick Santorum he said the quiet part out loud this week when he said, it's these ballot initiatives, they got to get a handle on those. They're I watched Ohio. They passed legislation in the chamber that said we're no longer going to have any more August elections. And then when they saw that they tried to challenge the reproductive health care ballot initiative, they tried to challenge it in the courts, and the courts were like, no, they did everything that they needed to do to get on the ballot. Well, then while they thought people were sleeping, they threw an August election to change the rules on how ballot measures get passed from a simple majority to a supermajority. They needed to be 60%, right? Because they knew they had about so many nefarious things, because like you said, they don't want the people to have a say. And until Indiana can change our constitution, we're going to be in trouble. So we've got to be so focused, so laser focused in making sure that we are electing people. So Sam, as we look forward and we think about 2024. I know a lot of people are still in the afterglow of Tuesday night, because I kind of am, right? I'm still feeling good. But we've got some major races. First up, and I know people want to talk about U.S. Senate. That's fine. But to me, the most important race is our governor's race. Whew. And there's already a bunch of a bunch of Republicans that are wanting to run. How are we planning to target and message to people that we need to reach out to? We've got to get into rural Indiana. We've got to go talk to people about, how our leaders are going to better their lives. How do we begin having those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we've done in the past that has been successful in starting to break down some of those challenges is having tours go around the state. And we're going to continue that again next year. I want to do a tour around breaking the supermajority, going to places where we can flip state house seats next year, engaging with volunteers, engaging with donors, engaging with candidates that we're going to have in those places. And as you mentioned, on a statewide level, the governor's race next year is going to be incredibly important. It's open governor's seat. And the people that are running for governor are not serious about being governor. We see Mike Braun won't even vote for any bill to keep the government open. Was basically advocating for the U.S. to default on its debt. And he and he wants to be our next governor.
Right.
Have those responsibilities around the finances of the state. And then obviously, we've been trying to message a lot to low and middle class Hoosiers on Suzanne Crouch's proposal to get rid of the income tax, because it's something that sounds good on paper, but it's something that would be a disaster for working class Hoosiers, because it would lead to an extreme rise in the sales tax. So your wealthiest 1% in this state would save tens of thousands of dollars on the tax bill every year, while the poorest 20% in the state would pay hundreds more in taxes because sales tax would need to go up.
Right. Jake?
I think we need to really focus on looking at Democratic areas of Indiana and making sure that we are investing our energy in those areas to get people to the polls. And then also looking at those areas, and when I'm talking about like House districts and state Senate races, to then where in those districts do we need to focus? Because there is time and energy is a thing that we have a finite amount of. And we, I think, have not been successful in the rural areas. And I think that we need to listen to that. And I think for me, it's difficult to see that we keep on trying that over and over again with the same outcome. So I think for me, we kind of have to, we have to think outside the box and where we're focusing our energy and who we are targeting into to get registered to vote and to then vote Democrat.
But I think something else that we have to do that I think will be beneficial to encouraging us to encouraging people to hear us differently. I think we have to be consistent in these communities. We can't just kind of show up I think in August thinking that we are going to make any headway in convincing folks that our policies are better. I think we need to be in these communities all of the time. Like and I've said it before, you know, we need to be like the Boy Scouts. You know, you go into the community, you help communities before you start asking for things, right? You show up, and then when you're there, you know, they'll see you as just another somebody, right? That just happens to care about the community, that happens to want to help, that happens to want to do things in a positive way, right? And then they can start to see, because right now we got a bunch of people who really believe that we're at war with each other. We really have people out here believing that fellow Americans are their mortal enemy, right? Their mortal enemy. And we have to show them, like, no, that's not it. We're not your mortal enemy. We actually want to try to help you improve your life, right? And so some of that is us having to be consistent in talking to people and being more open and engaging and showing up in places that we normally wouldn't show up in. It's the same thing with going in Black and brown communities, right? One of the things I tell people is if Spanish isn't your second language or isn't your first language, and you're going to go talk to a community, make sure that you are recruiting people that are already in the community. Don't try to go in and tell them what they want. Find someone who's in the community and let them speak. Empower them to speak. Give them the tools they need to be the leaders in their communities. And I think we can do amazing things. I remember going up to Cass County and was it Cass? No, it was somewhere just like northeast of Fort Wayne, or just southeast of Fort Wayne. I can't remember, not Cass County. But I went into this community and, you know, they wanted me to come in and talk about, you know, how they can be better. And when I drove in, they told me, you know, it's just gonna be a bunch of white people. And when I drove in, I saw a soccer field full of young Hispanic men, Latino men playing soccer. And I'm like, have y'all not talked to them? Have y'all not reached out to them? There's a whole soccer field. Why aren't you reaching out to this community? And if you can't do it, we have a whole Latino caucus for you to reach out to for resources and for them to come in and speak to that community. So we have to do the same thing in rural America. That's why I'm so excited about, you know, people in rural Indiana saying, you know what, I'm not afraid. You know, the MAGAs don't scare me. I'm a run. And I just love that folks are trying to do that. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. And I want to talk about Midwest Moments that you guys in IYD are working on. Talk about Midwest Moments.
Yeah, so Midwest Moments is a IYD's podcast. We're working with Dana. She's helping us produce it to kind of elevate the issues that are on the youth's mind, and to really get our take on it, and to really kind of elevate the issue. And we're talking all kinds of different things. We're going to have a bunch of different voices come on, and it's kind of just a conversation very similar to this. And I have had some really good conversations. As Dana said, we had Brandon on there before he was mayor. Might have to bring him on as he's now mayor. But yeah, it's just going to be a place to elevate that youth conversation.
I love it. And what was the brainchild behind it? Why podcast?
I think we were more so just accessibility, and also to have a wide reach in the conversation, and also to get people energized to see that young people who are like-minded and who want to see a more progressive Indiana are having those conversations and are doing the work to make that happen. So community building in its essence.
Do you think the party will ever have a podcast?
So I don't, and the reason why is because I want to support podcasts like yours that are doing well around the state. You know, we've added your podcast and two others actually to our new website.
I didn't know that.
to get more engagement. Yeah. So if you go to our new website, indems.org, and you click on
Oh my gosh. That's
news
surprise,
podcast.
surprise.
Yeah.
That is so dope. Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Indiana's Own is here. Turn Left is here to make sure all the messaging from our state party gets out. I'm tickled pink. I mean, because I've been doing this for so long, and it's like, you're trying to do the best you can. I love that. Thank you for the support. Well, good.
Of course.
Well, then that means I'm about to have you on a little bit more, especially when you have something that you need to get out, right? We got to get that messaging out. So Sam, tell us a little bit about your background and what brings you to Indiana to work in the party and the comms?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a lifelong Hoosier from the region, 219. Grew up in Crown Point in Lake County. I live in Gary now. I love Northwest Indiana. And that's always given me a passion to want to be involved in politics here to try to make the area better. So in 2016, my first political job, I worked for John Gregg, and he ran for governor as an organizer in Maryville. And then in 2018, I took actually a semester off of school to work for Chris Chung out of college. I went to Ball State. Chris flipped the state house race in West Central Lake County. In 2018, he won by just 82 votes, and he was the first Asian American ever elected to the Indiana State House. So that's kind of my background. I've also worked for Jim Harper, who was our candidate for Secretary of State, and ran for Congress. And I worked for the Indiana House Democrats, official side, their caucus at the State House, working with all our legislators there as an intern in 2022.
Okay. And do you have a communications background?
Yeah. So my background in politics is more on field, but secondly, it's on communications because I originally wanted to be a journalist. So I've done a lot of sports writing and I've done a lot of political columns in the past, but I was the assistant sports editor for our college newspaper at Ball State, the Daily News.
Well, I got to tell you, I have liked what you've been putting out. I've been seeing it, the tone, your social media presence has been amazing. I think it was one of the better. This cycle was really good. The content was good, and it had joy in it. Right? It wasn't, yes, we're going to highlight, what they're doing, but you had a lot of joy. Were you intentional in making sure that there was joy in communicating with the people?
Yeah, especially on Tuesday night. We wanted to be joyful about these flips, not just congratulatory and put them all together in one statement. We wanted to have different statements out for each of our different historic candidates that won in Evansville, Lawrence, Michigan City, and Terre Haute.
Yep.
And so we did that. We had a strategy on Tuesday night, and we wanted to let as many Hoosiers know through as many outlets as possible that we had a really good night, and that they might have a new Democratic mayor or Democratic councilor in the new year.
That's exciting. So, Jacob, what is with you? Where you come from? What brings you to be the secretary of IYD?
No, I just want to real quick, Sam, I'm so excited that you are in this position. I really echo what Anna has said. I think that you've done a great job, and I think that we need you and your energy to continue to elevate the Democratic voice here and to, move the needle. So continue the good work. Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Where did I come from? I actually am an actor by trade. I went to
not with that beautiful face. What?
Thank you. I still act sometimes. If I can juggle it all. I actually went to Butler University. I was a pre-med major, and then I was there for a year. I loved Butler. Go Bulldogs! But then I was like, I think that I want to pursue being an actor, and so I was an acting major at Ball State. Graduated there and was in Chicago for a few years doing that, pursuing that full time. And then COVID hit and sent me to my room and said, what do you really want? Right. And while I was at Ball State, I was very active. I was more in social justice activism. I was a part of a social justice group. And that's actually how I met James Wells, who is the current president of IYD. He was the student body president, and I was the president of that organization. And we worked a lot together. He was more on like that side, and I was the more one like doing marches and, you know, doing sit-ins and all of that jazz. Like I organized the anti-Trump rally in 2016 at Ball State. And that was always a big part of me, even in Chicago. And then COVID, and that wasn't like something I was making a priority in my life. And I really had to ask myself, what does my impact want to be? How can I use the gifts that I've been given in regards to how I interact with people and how I can, you know, effectively lead movements to have it more focused on my home state of Indiana. So I grew up in Frankfort, Indiana, and was, you know, in Indianapolis briefly. And we need more young people. We need more, you know, democratic voices to kind of elevate our messages. So I came down here and I served in the AmeriCorps on the Indy East Promise Zone. And then I found my way, and I now work in Mayor Joe's office as one of his neighborhood advocates, advocating for a large part of that same neighborhood.
Which neighborhood do you have?
I have the Near East Side.
Okay.
So, yep. So
what, like Keystone?
The Near East Side, Keystone North Side.
Well, I mean, no, like what, like 38th Street or?
Yeah, that's near Northeast.
Oh.
You like Woodruff Place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I live in my area as well. I live in Holy Cross area, which is just right out, you know, the first neighborhood. So it's the highest densely populated area of Indianapolis. Lots of houses. It's all neighborhoods. So I have around 40,000 people who I advocate for in regards to all sorts of things. I also have the 46201 zip code, which a lot goes on there. So I get everything from gun violence all the way to someone stealing someone's trash cart.
Right. Right.
It's a lot of things, but there's a lot of beautiful things happening here in Indianapolis, and I'm excited to be a part of that. But then also with IYD as the secretary, I get to see more of Indiana and kind of really open that lens. And that's definitely a big priority for us as a young organization, is to see ourselves outside of just Indianapolis.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
Our leadership is here. Some of our CD, we have our CD chairs, right? But it's how do we like bring that democratic energy that we have in Marion County to those smaller areas in Indiana and all of Indiana.
I love it. And I love the saying that you're still in the region and you're up there doing the work, because people, I tell people all the time, you know, if you want Indiana to go blue, you better go up to Lake County. You better go spend some time in Lake County, because turnout is the difference. Because honestly, think about it. Some of these counties have maybe, 10,000 registered voters, 10,000 in some of these counties. Indianapolis, we got over 600,000. It's about, we have 600,000 residents. We don't have that many registered voters. Unfortunately, I need to get more people registered. But I'm just saying, we could get people turned out. We can do these things. And I love that you're in Lake County, because people try to just throw away Lake County. And I don't get it. Like, that is such a vibrant community with culture and history, and I love that you're still up there and you're working to elect some folks. And then, of course, we're going to tip our hat to Mayor-elect Eddie Melton. Of course, that was the primary was the race up there. But
Eddie Melton got over 95% of the vote, and he had an opponent.
Oh, he had an opponent?
Yeah.
I didn't know he did. I thought I didn't see that. Well, I guess I just knew after the primary it was done.
Yeah. I mean, the Republican candidate for mayor of Gary got less than 350 votes.
Well, everyone, if they feel the need, they should just go ahead and put their name on the ballot. You know,
there's nothing wrong with running.
There's nothing wrong with running. But it's exciting to see a two-term senator take over his home city. I'm excited about, and then Lori Latham, I love her to death.
That's my city councilwoman.
What? Lori Latham is just I love, 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 love her. I got to give a shout out to my LGBTQ plus community. Indiana Stonewall Democrats, we endorse some candidates, and not everybody won. But I got to get a shout out. My partner, my love, she won her reelection for Bloomington City Clerk, but she is no longer the only woman of color, the only black woman elected in the state of Indiana, because Bianca Tirado up in South Bend is now another LGBTQ plus black woman elected to city clerk in South Bend. So Nicole, you got some company. Now we did lose a history maker in Veronica Pedrell down in Putnam County. She lost her seat, our first trans elected in the entire state, and she lost by, I think, 23 votes. So, you know, we win some, we gain some, and we lose some. But I've already heard, you know, Veronica's on a mission. She's not done yet. Jacob, you know, our community struggles sometimes to get some representation. What do we need to do to get more LGBTQ plus folks interested in politics and getting them engaged in the Democratic Party? Help me.
I was going to say this, I was going to say that I'm going back to my statement about, you know, Sam's going to be leading this, like, our party into, I feel like, what is this, like, new age. And I think it's messaging. Right? It really does come to that, not even just within our community, but I think it's even more so important to our community.
Yeah.
To see, you know, an organization that is making those statements, it has an effective like through line in what they're trying to get across, that we're all on the same page, right? And I think it's a great question, right? Because
I mean, we were just at the Indy Pride event the other day, and they had just a community event, and it was free food, and they were just feeding the neighborhood. So congratulations, Indy Pride. And you could see people understand the importance of voting, but gosh, the idea of saying, "Hey, will you run for office?" You could just see them go, like someone told them they got to have a root canal.
Yeah, I was a part of that. I saw that conversation. Yeah, I think that there's an aspect of it, right, where a lot of our community we are still, you know, within a state that all these bills really impact the feeling of your worth, right? Like, and I think that for some of our community, that has taken a toll. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, not even just within our community, mental health all across America, and especially in the Hoosier State, it's not that great. And so, right, I think that we have to, I think we need to make sure that we are supporting that community. And all I can do is my part, and all I can do is, you know, try to support others. Being a part of that community, and as well as, you know, Dana, I love seeing you there. I can just continue to hopefully inspire and just bring joy, right, to that community, because we need it.
Absolutely. And we've got to fight bad legislation, because I can see they are going to continue to try to, you know, marginalize our community, try to turn us into some type of foreign object to fear, you know. One last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. Something that we saw all over the country, in Iowa, we saw it in Ohio. Moms for Liberty candidates were losing a lot of school board races. Now, Moms for there was a big to do with the Hamilton County, the Carmel mayoral race. You know, Moms for Liberty are trying to go out and bully people, and unfortunately they were in the school board. But around the country, we're seeing that people are rejecting this book banning idea and not being able to tell rich stories from multiple perspectives. Do you think maybe we might be able to you know, get some school. We don't have school board races up in 24, do we? I don't think a lot of them, but we might have a few. But I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think different parts of the state do it differently. So
Yeah. So I'm taking some hope in the fact that in Ohio and in Iowa and other places around the country, they see Moms for Liberty and they're like, we don't want no parts of that. We're not banning books. We're gonna do things the right way. We're gonna fully educate people. And their candidates, their endorsed candidates, lost. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. So you guys, there's still hope in America, right? There's still hope. We're not gonna let the Speaker of the House get us down. We're not gonna let the terrible Jim Banks get us down. We're not gonna let Mike Braun get us down. We're gonna keep showing up. And with people like Sam, who is handling the comms for the state party, and Jacob, who is an integral part of IYD and recruiting young people to be engaged. I'm telling y'all, Indiana Democrats, we are in great shape. We are in great shape. All right, so next week, I'm going to bring on someone who can talk to us about getting involved in the Biden campaign. He is looking to recruit volunteers. Guys, you don't have to work every weekend. You don't have to work, you could do like 1 weekend a quarter to help get signatures out. Well, you got to work a little faster to get Biden on the ballot, but we need to get Biden on the ballot here in Indiana. And whoever else is going to run, if you see somebody out collecting signatures, sign the petition. It doesn't matter whether you want to support them or not. And I mean, Democrats, I'm just saying Democrats, sign the petition. So if you see any of the senatorial candidates out collecting signatures, sign the petition. If you see any of those gubernatorial candidates out, sign the petitions, because that's how they get on the ballot. If they're doing the work, then you go ahead and put your signature on it, right? If you're in that county, put your signature on it. So we got to get Biden on the ballot as well. I'm not sure if he's going to get our 11 little electoral college votes, but let's try to give them to him, right? We can flip it. So look for those things. Guys, before I go, one last shout out. What was the most satisfying moment for you on Tuesday night? Sam, go first.
Yeah. I think it was Stephanie winning.
Stephanie Terry?
Stephanie Terry down in Evansville, and hearing from their team. Stephanie posted a very powerful campaign photo of her looking at the wall of all the mayors of Evansville of the past, and all the white men, including where the KKK took over the state a century ago, and now Evansville's elected its first black mayor. And the KKK took over a state from Evansville a century ago.
I love it. That's a great story. Jacob, what is your favorite moment of Tuesday night? I know there were so many. So many. Can't have dead air, bro.
I know. Yeah. So I think the first place my mind goes is just honestly the state as a whole.
Okay.
And I would call it a wave. I would call it a blue wave in a lot of these elections. So I think that gives me a lot of hope and excites me for what is to come. And it kind of invigorates me in the work that I'm doing right now.
I love it. And let's see, I think the best thing for me was the fact that 3 black women, and we had 4 black women on the ballot. We also had Miss Groff up in Peru, Indiana. She did not win her race, but I had the chance to interview all 4 of those women, and I've gotten the chance to know them. Deb Whitfield I've known for a while because she lives in the same county. But I mean, people always talk about black women are the backbone of the party, but when we support them, that's when we feel appreciated, that the work that we're doing. I had a conversation with Nicole, and she was, sometimes, we get frustrated, like we're out here doing the work and we're representing our community, we're representing our party. And sometimes it doesn't feel like, certain individuals within our community are supporting us. But when you see black women get elected, they didn't do it by themselves, right? It takes a community. And I just love knowing that my party, my party embraces diversity at all levels, and we are working hard to elevate voices that have traditionally not been elevated. So for me, that was my thing. All right, I'm going to stop talking. Guys, I get so excited about election season, but it's not over. It's time to gear up. People got to get petitions turned in. Filing deadline is only a few months away. It's in February. It's not that far away. So guys, if you want to run for office, contemplate it, talk to some friends, call me, well, text me, and then let's chat about it. And let's continue to move Indiana forward. Let's continue to work hard to elect more Democrats so that we can live in the state that is reflective of the love, light, and joy that we have for everybody. So I will see y'all next week. In the meantime, I'll holla. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.